Alright, YouTube, so we're back with some more Final Fantasy IX Remake information / rumors, whatever you want to call it. We actually have an official kind of update from YoshiP, of all people. Earlier today, they did a live stream for Final Fantasy XIV, one of those, like, letter from the producers or whatever. In kind of an earlier section, they're, like, I think taking questions or something from the chat, but they're also kind of talking about, like, recent rumors and stuff like that. And for one, YoshiP denies the Dutch interview that we looked at recently that quoted him as saying, like, they're working on multiple projects and some of them are going to be revealed soon or something like that. He kind of denies that and says that he's kind of misquoted. But he brings up this, like, I guess, rumor that YoshiP's team, Creative Studio 1, is working on the Final Fantasy IX Remake, which I guess I hadn't heard that particular rumor yet. He denies that, which is kind of whatever. I mean, would it have been a bad thing for them to be the ones working on the 9 Remake? Not necessarily. But they do have a lot going on. You know, they just got done making, like, the last piece of DLC for 16. Obviously, they're doing the 16 to PC, maybe other platforms as well. They're obviously currently working on 14. According to Jason Schreier, they're working on Tactics Remaster, and if they're also doing the 9 Remake, it just feels like a lot. Speaking of the Tactics thing, though, like, Jason Schreier had confirmed in a Reddit thread like a day or so ago that the Tactics Remaster is real, which I didn't feel like itself was video-worthy just because, for one, we already know it is real. It's going to happen at some point. But I think also he'd confirmed it like a while back. We probably did a video about it. I think it was like him replying to a tweet or something, kind of confirming that the Tactics Remaster is real. But another thread, he had kind of, it seemed like confirmed that Yoshida's team, Creative Studio 1, are the ones that are working on the Tactics Remaster. That's not what the focus of the video is, but I'll link to the thread in the description below if you guys want to check it out, I guess. Yeah, anyways, back on topic, Yoshida denies that his team's working on the 9 Remake. He never denies or confirms that the 9 Remake is happening. He's just saying his team's not working on a 9 Remake. Take that for what you will. But he does go on to say that something like a 9 Remake would be a massive, like, project, and that if they were to do it, it'd probably be a big undertaking because 9's like a bigger game than 7, essentially is what he's saying. It sort of puts into perspective the idea that the 9 Remake would be something like the 7 Remake, right? If it would be this big undertaking. It's not just like a visual kind of overhaul. It seems like it'd be more to scale with like a 7 Remake. I don't know if that means it's one release or multiple releases. I have no idea.
So again, Yoshida is not working on any sort of Final Fantasy IX Remake. It's a wonderful, wonderful title, and a lot of us are fans of the original Final Fantasy IX, but it's quite a hefty game. I think it might be even more, it has more volume than Final Fantasy VII, so the scale of it is just much different. And I think we would have to be very careful and mindful if we were to handle Final Fantasy IX.
So at least according to Yoshida, in his mind, if he's not trying to like fuck with us or throw us off the trail or whatever of a 9 Remake, he's saying that it'd just be this massive undertaking, be a massive project to do for somebody to remake a Final Fantasy IX because it's such a bigger game than something like a Final Fantasy VII. And in talking about that, you know, it's a pretty interesting thing just because I don't know what I necessarily want entirely because I'm kind of both ways. I'd like a faithful remake that's just like visually so much better than the original. But at the same time, similar to like the Final Fantasy VII versus 7 Remake, like I've played FF7 a lot. I can play and buy FF7 on any platform. I can do the same with 9. So I don't know if I necessarily want to just play Final Fantasy IX again. It's a great game, but I've played it a lot in my life. So part of me would love to see the 9 Remake, to a certain degree, get the 7 Remake treatment. But I don't know that I want, you know, multiple releases, years apart type shit. Or plot ghost stuff. Actually, not the last bit of the 9 Remake that Yoshida comments on, because he makes a comment about how somebody says that, like, if Yoshida's team were the ones to do a 9 Remake, it'd be action-based. To which he says probably not, and that whoever would make a 9 Remake would probably make it turn-based, and so would he.
When talking about if Yoshida were to remake Final Fantasy IX, there were comments about how, no, if he handles it, it's going to turn into an action game, so I don't want it. But I mean, Final Fantasy IX, I think whomever would handle it would probably make it turn-based. I would make it turn-based.
I don't know. It's just, for me, that feels like a weird thing to say, a weird thing to comment on. It's also weird in general that during this Final Fantasy XIV live stream, they dedicate off and on through about 10 minutes of this like section talking about the 9 Remake. Because it starts around like 27-ish minutes into the VOD for the live stream. And this kind of ends around about the 37, 38-minute mark. And then off and on throughout that time frame, they're talking about the 9 Remake, dude. I find that weird. Like, why are we talking so much about the 9 Remake? I know that he's addressing some rumors and stuff, but still. Let's also put ourselves into, like, an alternate reality. Let's pretend like the 9 Remake doesn't exist. There's no leaks, no rumors. How can he be so sure that a 9 remake would be turn-based? It's a weird thing to say, right? Because you don't know that. We don't know that. As of right now, we don't know at all what the 9 remake is. We can assume some stuff. We can hope for some stuff. But he's very, very sure that if a 9 remake were to happen, if he were to make it or if somebody else were to make it, it'd be turn-based. And it seems an odd thing to say to me. Look, we know that the 9 remake exists. I don't know or necessarily care who's making it, as long as it's good, right? I don't care if it's, Creative Studio 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't give a fuck. As long as it happens and it's good, that's all I care about. But I thought it was pretty interesting that Yoshida, of all people, was talking about this. Because people say that, talking about it on like Reddit and stuff, like he has a history of denying shit during live streams and it coming true not too long after. And going back to the tactics stuff earlier in the video, like back in like April, we talked about it in a video not too long ago, where he had mentioned, it's about time we do another tactics or something along those lines. And here we are a little bit later. And at least according to Jason Schreier, like his team's the one that's working on it. So like for him to talk about tactics and then they're working on it, and here he is talking about the 9 remake. His game, Final Fantasy XIV, is about to have a bunch of Final Fantasy IX stuff in it. I don't know. Just kind of in general with all the stuff involving Final Fantasy IX the last couple of years, like we know it's happening. I mean, we had the leak initially back in 2021, and then there's like the animated Final Fantasy IX show, and then more recently we had the first crossover they did at all for like Ever Crisis was Final Fantasy IX, which is just like a strange thing to do. I love the game, but it's like a weird crossover to start with. And then you have like the Final Fantasy XIV stuff coming up right now that's going to have, some Final Fantasy IX stuff in it. And then just now recently we had the leak with like Epic Game Store or whatever. Like, come on. We know the 9 remake's happening. It's just, I guess at this point, a matter of when it's coming out and who's making it. I suppose also what kind of a remake it is. And at least according to Yoshida, unless he's trying to throw us off the trail or something, like he's saying it'd be like on par with the 7 remake and potentially bigger just because 9's a bigger game than 7. But really, regardless of everything we talk about in this video, regardless of whether it's like a 7 remake style remake, whether it's Yoshida's team making it, whether it's turn-based or not, this is kind of our first time that Square Enix at all, somebody from Square Enix, is addressing the 9 remake. That's the main thing here. Regardless of whether, even if the remake wasn't true itself, it's just interesting that, somebody that's major at Square Enix is publicly talking about the 9 remake. That's interesting by itself. I suppose at this point, with the recent Epic Store leak, which we know has got to be in regards to Final Fantasy IX, or it's definitely in regards to Final Fantasy IX, whether or not it's regards to like a 9 remake, I guess is the real question. You kind of can't deny it anymore at this point. Back in the day, back in 2021, when the NVIDIA leak happened, they're just like, these are all placeholder names. And it's like, well, okay, maybe that's true. But then why is there only a 9 remake? If these are just placeholder names for potential titles at some point down the road, inevitably, why is there not like a 5 remake, a 6 remake, a Final Fantasy 3 remake, 2 remake? Why aren't these other things? You only have the 9 remake. That's why it's fucking shady, dumbasses. You can't even cover this up. You suck. Obviously, just kind of in general, as time's gone on with the leak from NVIDIA, that a lot of that shit came true. There's obviously like hundreds or thousands of games. I don't think like everything's released as of now, but the majority of stuff on there that was very interesting has been confirmed as time's gone on or actually already released. First video, my dudes, we definitely had to talk about this, of course, because it's Square Enix in some capacity or another addressing the 9 remake. It's very interesting. It's kind of a weird thing for Yoshida to do. But he's always been kind of open. I mean, he did this with like 16 when, like even before 16 came out and people were talking about the PC release, he was just like, haha, what are you talking about? It's crazy. Buy the game on PS5. Something along those lines, right? So it's like, he knows that everybody knows that the PC version exists, and I'm sure it's the same thing here, where he knows that everybody knows the 9 remake exists, so maybe that's why he's addressing it. Of course, pass it off to you guys. What are your thoughts on this? Because it's very interesting. Yoshida talking about the 9 remake in several different capacities. Do you think his team's making it for one? Do you think it'd be something like the 7 remake project, or like a bigger project than that, at least according to Yoshida? And do you think it'd actually be turn-based? Anyways, that's the video. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. Search the marks in the description below. Follow me on Twitter, _DavidYT. That's it. Bye.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Logain, or leave it like Cobain.